Light from Lantern presents Knit a Spell. I'm Magical Maker, Katie Rempe.
And I'm the maker of magic, James Devine.
Join us as we stitch together the symbiotic relationship between crafting
And the craft.
Welcome to a brand new episode of Knit a Spell.
Knit a spell. Oh, hey, I am excited for this week because it's my favorite thing to do. Did you know that the Dalai Lama has a vice?
Ooh, what?
He does, yes. His vice is gossip.
Ooh.
His robes are a little too long, or his robes are a little too, what do they gossip about? So-and-so ate too much.
Else going on other than, who else do they have to talk to but each other? Must be Gossip Central.
Yeah. So anyway, I think it's the cutest thing. But that's what we're going to do today. We are going to take a note from the Dalai Lama, and we are going to spill the tea on this episode of Knit a Spell.
Yes.
Spilling the tea
on client stories.
Oh, now names are going to be used if the person needs to be like totally no, I'm kidding. I'm not going to use any names that I don't think. Maybe.
No.
You know who you are. You know who you are.
If you feel like this story rings true, ask yourself why. No, well, we were talking the other day about how this would be a fun episode to do because we have both worked many years in a retail or customer service environment. And after a while, you get some stories. And we were entertaining ourselves so much with these stories that we thought, this would be actually even better to share with all of you. Because if you've ever worked in a similar industry, I bet you'll be able to relate.
Oh my gosh, right. Those are the best stories. Oh my God, the time that I had this customer, I had this thing. And we were just talking about some of the jobs we've had.
Yep.
And let's just sort of orient that. Like, Katie, you worked at your first job, both of our first jobs. This was funny.
Yes.
Right? Let's say it together. Both of our first jobs were 1, 2, 3.
Babysitting. Yes.
So do you think babysitting was your first customer service?
Absolutely. Yes. I could feel the responsibility of that job even as a kid.
I think it was also customer service hazing. My brother and I had a babysitting service, right?
Oh.
It was the boys' babysitting service. And so it was my brother and I would be like, if you have boys, you want boys as babysitters. So hire the Barker brothers and we're your babysitting service, right? And we would go, it would be 2 for the price of 1. And we were there and we'd play with your kids. And it was super fun. And we weren't, mostly we would reheat mac and cheese and play with your kids and have a great time. And there was 2 of us. And my brother and I are just 18 months apart. And so that was super fun to hire the brothers to come over and basically Parker? Yeah, and play with your kids for 3 hours while you and your husband or wife went out for a nice dinner. You're having the older cousins over and responsible enough to not get in too much trouble, but fun enough to
actually entertain the kids.
The church kids would scream for us to come and be their babysitter.
Oh my gosh. Well, you had such great marketing and, backing it up with excellent customer service.
And the alliteration, right?
Absolutely.
Was pretty good. Yeah.
Everyone loves Barker's Brothers babysitting. Oh, yeah. Man, I'll tell you.
Yeah. So it's pretty good. That was a pretty good gig. So we definitely had our niche of because who always was the babysitter for us was some 15-year-old, girl who was go to bed or whatever.
Yeah.
Reading her teenage magazine. I'm sure you would be come on, let's go explore in the desert and find tarantulas.
Not quite like that, but I always did come equipped with crafting supply, snacks, all the things that if something happens, I had distractions. So I had social anxiety when my parents would leave as a kid too. So I always felt like I had extra tools from my experience to go in with.
Our tools for kids with social anxiety were, come on, let's go out into the desert and find scorpions under rocks.
Look over there.
Yeah, because we
Let's
grew up in the
go.
desert. So yeah, that was our
Oh,
thing.
fun. All
Let's
right.
go ride bikes.
Oh, very good.
Yeah.
I did a stint at a big box store to an extent at one point, and then
And
I
that was
didn't.
like was that a outdoor retailer?
It was an outdoor retailer.
But
That's right.
but we could just say everyone will know who it is. It was a big box, but it was actually a co-op.
Yeah, it's a better box. Some might say.
Yes, a better box. Yes. So
Yeah.
that was a pretty cool. Mine, once I got out of fast food, I worked for in the travel industry for one of the rent-a-car companies. And that
Ah,
was a test of endurance because what I realized was like if you work for an outdoor retailer, I mean, and if you work for the one that everyone loves, right?
yeah. Yeah.
I think you had it pretty easy because most people are going there for it's before they're going on their trip and they're in the dreamy state of like, I
Yes.
want to climb a mountain, I want to go camping.
Mm-hmm.
Not while they're camping or while they're climbing the mountain, they're pretty pissed off. When you work for a rent-a-car company, they are either returning their car and about to travel, which is stressful,
Hmm.
or they're picking up their car and they just were traveling and it's stressful. There is never a moment when someone is renting a car that they are not in a state of stress.
Oh, wow,
Never.
that's a
It is
beautiful reflection. Ooh.
always in this state of stress. And they're pissed off because their car cost them $800, or they're pissed off because their flight is,
Hmm.
even if they're in first class and their flight was perfectly awesome, travel is stressful.
Yep.
So it was a true test of serving people who are in a state of stress.
Ooh, well, I bet that was very character building for you, Jim.
I think I have. It was. I think I learned. I think both of these experiences build character. But okay, so I'm imagining like you're working for this big box cooperative, like
Hmm.
outdoor retailer, right?
Yep.
It's a big box store, and that must be have been like the hardest customers, right? Compared to like, where'd you work after that?
Um, After that, I actually ended up being at the yarn company, the manufacturer company. So it went from being well, actually, so before that, I was working at a local yarn store before the big box place. So that was actually, I would say, the most customer service involved job I have ever had, bar none so far.
Oh wait, the
Uh,
yarn store is
yes,
hard. Well, that was more demanding than
yes,
the high end. So
yep,
you're telling me people who are literally about to climb Everest and
yep,
go on a like mountain climbing quest were easier customers than the
yes,
classic like I'm gonna knit this shawl.
yes. There was less stress involved in the customers who are about to climb whatever or cross the ACT or whatever the thing is that they do.
The PCT, but okay.
That's one too.
Oh,
See,
the ACT. You're right. You're right. Yep.
ah, then people who were afraid of dropping a stitch or had messed up their pattern and didn't know how to fix it. The fear in those eyes are still the most fearful than these people crossing the country, ready to die potentially. They were more excited than the knitters typically. Not everyone, but I was
In
surprised.
general, your
Yeah,
general sort of sense.
generally, yes. It
I'm gonna
was
crochet.
shocking.
I'm gonna crochet this Afghan with this acrylic yarn, and I'm more of a stress kitty than
Yes.
hiking the Appalachian Trail.
Yes, picking a color to make somebody else's baby blanket more stressful than picking the shoes that are going to get you through like 1,000 miles of hiking.
Oh my god. Let's spill the tea on some experiences we've had. Just thinking about at the yarn store, back when you
Hmm.
worked at the yarn store, what is the weirdest customer project issue or customer project thing, or
Yeah.
what's the thing that stands out that was the weirdest thing?
Okay. So in terms of the yarn store, I mean, we got a lot of interesting folk, all sorts of people, which was great because we were a vacation destination. So we had like lots of different people from all over the world.
Oh, right. So
Um,
wait, just back up a second. So I just want to set the scene. This is in Florida
yes.
in a beach. Like this is a city or a town near the coast.
Yeah. definitely benefits from its warm weather in the winter.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah, so I would get people who had all sorts of projects, started from, whether it was with us or, they're traveling and they started at another store, perhaps they're just taking up knitting again and now they're here and they're like, "Okay, I started this project. I'm not exactly sure what's happening." I think one of the weirdest like project problems that people someone brought to me was I just remember this poor lady coming in and she was all flustered, wondering why this cowl, which is just like a neck wrap loop kind of a thing. It's like a scarf in a circle, put it around the neck kind of a thing.
A scarf
Uh,
with a hole in it.
exactly.
Yes.
So she was building a circle and wondering why it was taking her so long and taking so much yarn. And so I took it out of the bag, took a look at it, and I see it is on, yes, a small circular needle. However, the amount of stitches that were chosen to be put on this needle was endless. So at a certain point I say, "Ma'am, what was your intended size for this finished project?" She said, "Oh, like 30 inches or so, something to just not go too far." And so I said, "Okay, I think you may end up needing to redo this, and let me show you why." So, much to her horror, I started pulling the stitches off the needle because when it's forced to be in a certain circumference, it sort of looks like it's staying there. However, when you start to pull it off to give it the space it needs, you realize it's much, 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 much larger. Jim, when we had this thing pulled off, we were laughing so hard. It was the size. It could have fit over my Chevy Spark. It was like a small car cover. Huge, enormous. I don't know what pattern she was following or what. Maybe it was supposed to be for fingering weight yarn and she just didn't realize that she was using a much too much thick yarn. But this was a cowl that turned into a car cover. And I
Oh,
I know she felt really bad, but we were laughing so hysterically because
okay. I just want to say I am so glad that customer was laughing.
yeah, she was a good sport about it because how can you not at that point? Everybody, while you're knitting, if you feel it's not going well, stop. Stop and ask someone first before going on. It may save you a lot of time.
Bind off and use it as a car cover. You're done.
Yeah, I was like, "You did it." And she was like, "I don't want this." So yeah, I think that was probably one of the weirdest projects that I helped fix in a way.
Oh my gosh. I thought you were going to say a guy came in, he was acting kind of weird, and he finally came up and said, "Can I knit a body bag?" Or something like
uh, yeah, no, I didn't get too much of that. But
that.
next time I do, I'll let you know.
Okay, great. I'm a little morbid sometimes. Oh my God. So funny.
So I want to know from you, now that you've seen a lot of people's hands, and after getting
Yeah.
my palm reading with you, I realize, both of our palms are not the same. Like you have two different hands totally.
Hmm.
Didn't realize that. So now I'm kind of wondering, now that you're the expert of palms and hands generally, what are some unique features you've seen in people's hands as you've been doing readings and whatnot?
Right. Yeah. Well, I have certainly seen a lot of things that I've only ever seen once. Having something unique on your hand is surprisingly not unique. I mean, I know that's weird, but lots of people have something on their palm that
Hmm.
no one else has.
Hmm.
And I think in a way, take that and know that like you are like, I don't know, the thought I have is like you are kissed by the divine. Like you are, that's like one of the reasons I call my business the divine hand is because you really do have something on your hand that no one else has, something completely unique,
Hmm.
something that I have never seen before in the thousands of hands that I've seen,
That's
right?
great.
And
You are
it's
a snowflake.
so, yeah, it's
Yeah.
so cool, right? We get
Hmm.
to discover like what that is and the very rare type of thing that it is, right?
Hmm.
The things and there are things that are more or less rare
Hmm.
and things that I have that are more wow, I've never seen something that like different or that
That
in that
combination.
spot or that combination
Yeah.
or things that are that deep or that marked on
Hmm.
people's hands. But I think the hands that really stick out, like what are some of the hands that are really just like I'll never forget? A woman that came in and she had some sort of um, I guess I don't know if this is a politically correct term or the term that is
Preferred.
um, preferred or
Mm.
sensitive, but a physical deformity or defect. Her mother had taken the medication thalidomide, which
Mm.
caused a birth deformity,
Oh, I
and so
bet.
her hands were very very small. And so she came to me for a palm reading, and it was such an honor to be able to read her hands and
Mm.
to see the amazing formations on her hands. And so when someone has an anomaly or they have anatomy that is unique or that is different, and especially if it's something that they have been um, potentially ridiculed for, right,
Mm.
or oppressed over,
Sure.
and they're willing to show that and to have me read that, it's such an honor. I feel so like
Mm. Yeah, it's very courageous for
trusted.
them. Yes.
Yeah, and
Mm.
and yeah, and that was a really special experience to
Mm.
just be able to have her, like, her trust and faith, and to that she felt my energy, and that she, we could have this really very intimate experience together. And so that was a really awesome wonderful experience. So there was a person that had to have their ring finger removed.
Oh.
I think it was a bone cancer that had
Mm.
presented in their ring finger, and the doctor removed it and removed the bone in the hand and the finger, and then stitched it together. So the person
Mm.
had only 3 fingers instead of 4, but it was really not very noticeable. Like, you didn't really notice at first until you looked more closely, because they did such a masterful job of sort of making the hand fully functional, but just like it was missing one of the fingers, but it still looked really
Wow.
normal in a way.
Wow. Yeah, that's
That was
fun.
really cool to read. But it
Yeah.
was like, wow, you were missing your ring finger. You're missing your Apollo finger, your sun finger, which represents ego
Yeah.
and
Oh,
and identity. I
interesting.
Oh my God, that was a really cool read. That was like mind blowing. And it was on the right hand. And I was like,
Oh.
whoa. So we talked all about how that person like functioned in the world. So it's stuff like that that sticks with
Yeah.
me.
Okay. Wow. Yeah, that is such an interesting thing to think about. Like you said, the right hand, and that's your outward facing personality, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's right.
Oh, ooh, and it's the ego. Ooh, and
Right.
that's where the cancer came. That is so interesting.
Yeah.
Why there? Wow. Yeah, I bet that was an incredible
Fascinating,
reading.
right? Yeah, I've seen a lot.
Yeah, I bet. All right. So since we have seen a lot, let's share the question that everyone wants to know. Who's been your biggest Karen so far? Whether that's,
Oh,
whatever job you want, take your pick. What's your favorite Karen story?
I'll share the palmistry, Karen, for
Mm,
sure. Yeah.
wonderful.
Okay. And then I
All
want to know
right.
yours.
Oh, I'll happily accept.
Yeah. So this was also something for me to learn. I have this fabulous client. She is a repeat customer. She's marvelous. She
Hmm.
travels the world. We just totally get along. I just adore her. She calls me and she's like, "I'm bringing my sister in, and I want." And so I'm like, "Oh my God, that's great!" Because she's brought other relatives in, and we've had a great time. And I've also been hired to do a party at her house and everything. Fabulous client. I love her. So she brings her sister over to my home for an in-person reading, and her sister comes in and sits down and offer tea and everything, and it's wonderful. And I see one of my favorite clients. I'm like, "Oh my God, how are you?" Da da da.
Mm-hmm.
And her sister's kind of cool and to me and whatever. And I'm like, "That's fine."
Hmm.
And so we sit down and we start the reading, and the sister has a kind of closed off energy, but that happens with people quite
Yep.
often, where
Nervous
they're
Nelly.
like, not sure about it or whatever.
Mm.
And I'm like, Yeah, it doesn't matter. I just use my method, and
Yep.
my method is my method, right? So we start, and I start reading her palm. Everything that I say about her palm, she responds with, yeah, no. She
Oh.
responds in the sort of negative.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, okay, what do you mean? She's like, well,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that's true. I'm like, okay. And so I move on to the next thing. And she's like, well, that could be true for anybody. And I'm like,
Ah. But is it
huh,
true for you?
right. And I'm like, this is interesting. So I
Mm-hmm.
do this a few more times and I stop and I'm like, okay, so this reading doesn't seem to be working for you.
Mm-hmm.
And actually seems like it's kind of torturing you a little bit. And she was like, yeah, it's not really working for me. And I'm like, okay, well, why did you want this palm reading? She's like, well, I
Mm-hmm.
didn't want this palm reading. My sister wanted me to get this palm reading.
Ah, the
And
truth comes out.
I was like, she's like, in fact, I went to a psychic reading back in New York, and the lady was like, don't ever get a psychic reading from anyone again. And I
What?
was like, what are you doing here, lady? That was a really awful experience, like 10
Oh,
minutes in,
yeah.
right? So I offered to give the money back. I did refund the
Mm-hmm.
client, right? And here is what I've learned. Number one,
Mm-hmm.
whoever you're reading, like, yes, I do sell gift certificates. You can buy a gift certificate. And the person who is cashing the gift certificate in needs to do the work to
Yes.
schedule the appointment. Like there needs to be some sort of like investment or skin in the game,
Yes.
even to do the work to schedule the appointment. If it's the other person doing all the work, I'm going to
Mm-hmm.
say, like, no, you cannot schedule the appointment. You cannot buy the person the gift certificate and schedule the appointment for them. I need to
Yes.
hear from them because I need them to be involved in like actually doing it because
Yes.
I'm not interested in doing that. Two, I don't give refunds
Mm-hmm.
like as a rule anymore. So
Right.
going back, I would have been like, okay, well, this doesn't seem to be working.
Yeah. Now
You
you know.
know, now you know.
Mm-hmm.
Like, except that maybe I would have because it was a really great client. I would have given her a credit and been like,
Sure.
maybe you can use this credit for someone else
Or
because
yourself.
I haven't ever seen that client again. That really great client
Oh,
felt really
bummer.
embarrassed about that experience and
Oh.
I wish that I would have like reached out and been like, let's use this as a credit for you to come back and let's do something.
Mm. This is a great example of people needing actual therapy, not just a palm reading.
Right.
Oh, maybe that was the sister trying to like get a little like, huh? Maybe this is the first step,
Maybe.
but yeah, no, that
Yeah.
was not happening. No, I think
So
you're exactly right.
that
They have to
was
have the intent to do it themselves.
yeah. That
Yeah.
was my biggest Karen. Yarn Karens.
Oh my gosh. Okay. So my yarn Karen came. I always joked when I worked at this yarn store that I wanted to go out in a blaze of glory, like scream at a customer, just like put them in their place, like of everything I always wanted to do but didn't want to actually do because I respected the owner and their business and all
Now, a
that.
lot of times we want to do that to a manager or to someone who is like a jerk, like that we work for, but you wanted to do it at a customer,
I
which is
wanted to go
like,
after the customer.
that's a little extra evil. I kind of love it.
I
But
was
you had,
maybe ready to stop retail at that point.
okay, but you had someone in particular in mind or just someone in general?
No, no. So the whole thing was like, I want to go out in a blaze of glory. So at one point I had put in my notice. I was going to go on to do the next thing. And the last week that I was there, my Karen opportunity to go out in my blaze of glory arrived. It was a person I had never seen before. Well, except for the previous day when they were there. They were having a lovely interaction with another one of the employees.
Was
It
that
was great.
sarcasm?
No, no, actually having a great time. Like, you're getting back into knitting. Wonderful. I'm going to pair you with this perfect yarn, with this perfect needle, with this perfect project bag, like get you back on your way. It's going to be great. So She, did all the things, did an awesome job. The customer left happy. Boom. Next day, she comes in with her husband and she is mad. And the reason is she wanted to return this knitting needle. However, and why? Well, I'll get to that in
Why?
a minute.
Okay,
But
hold on. Hold that thought. Hold
yes,
that thought.
yes,
Hold that
there's
thought.
two. Yes, okay.
I have noise happening, so we
Oh,
need to take a little noise break.
we'll take a quick break. We'll be right back.
Hey, Magical Makers! This is the last week to save 50% on my No Sweat Mason Cozy pattern. Don't forget to visit before July 31st, 2021 to use the code KNITASPELL, that's all one word, on Ravelry at checkout. Don't miss out on these awesome patterns at a great discount. Cheers!
Hey, Jim, let's talk about a palm reading for a sec.
Oh, yeah, my favorite topic.
So I don't think a lot of people necessarily think of getting a palm reading, but my palm reading with you was awesome, and it actually helped with a lot of preconceived notions that I had of the craft before now.
Oh, you had preconceived notions about palmistry? What were they?
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm pretty literal. So I thought having a short lifeline might mean you have a short life.
Right.
That a star on your palm is bad.
Oh, that's interesting. Both of those are common. A short lifeline does not mean a short life. It actually means a life of connection with the divine and learning and creating type of life. And a star in your palm is a sign of spiritual gift. Those are two things that are dispelled right away. I know there's a lot of things on the palm that people think are good or bad, right? There's nothing inherently negative in your palm. You can use all the tools, all the markings. They are associated with your strengths, your personality, and things you can use in your life.
Absolutely. I really love that modern take on palmistry, and it actually really resonated in my reading. I think everyone would enjoy a reading from you. And dear listener, if you too would like a fantastic experience that offers insight, direction, and clarity, I highly suggest booking a session with my dear friend James Devine, and you can find more information at thedivinedhand.com. And we're back. All right.
Okay. So where we last left off, what happened?
Okay. So this customer had two issues. Number one, her husband found out how much she spent on a knitting needle. It comes at the price that we sell it to you at, which you agreed to.
Which is how much?
I think it was like $15 or something at that point. So, which, for a knitting needle can seem like a lot. However, when you're here on vacation at your second home at your yacht, I'm like, why is this such a problem for you? So, it wasn't until the person paying the bills apparently found out, and he was not pleased. So he encouraged her to return everything to us. And I was happy to take back the yarn, which hadn't been rolled yet, and the project bag. However, our policy is that we did not accept knitting needles because as a vacation destination, we would have people knit their project and then come back and return it before they left. So nice of them. So we had to have a policy where that was not a thing. And it states that right at the register where it says when you agree to pay for it and take it with you. It also says so on the receipt, and it also says so right over by where we sell the knitting needle. So there were 3 opportunities for her to use reading skills to see that this was going to be a sad interaction for her. So when I informed her that we couldn't take back those needles, which is apparently the big point of contention here with her husband, she decided to scream at me over the counter with a finger. One of those. How dare you? I've never been treated like this. Oh, yeah.
The Jupiter finger.
The Jupiter finger.
You love that, Katie. Don't you love being pointed at with the Jupiter finger? Having someone put their power over you.
And I just said, I'm so sorry. That's the policy. Oh, I wish I could help you. Oh, I'm mad too. Oh. This was my time to freak out. And here I am. What are you going to do? Because I realized that angered her more was my lack of response. So she left to go to see her husband, who then came back to both yell at me. Now they're both going in at me. How dare you? Blah, 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 blah. We want to talk to the manager. To which I said, you're right. I will get her. How can I help you? I'm the manager. Hey! This was a great moment, especially as I was training a new person who was sitting next to me, horrified at this interaction, thinking this is going to be her new life with these people. But no. So after they yelled at me and I said, oh, sorry, can't do anything about it. Shucks. They left. He left first. She left. Oh, then came back after she heard one of my favorite customers who just happened to be overhearing this scene over at the knitting table say, good, leave. Well, then that person came back to then yell at my poor customer who said, good, leave. Oh, I'm going to tell everyone you shouldn't be here either. So that was my biggest Karen, and could have been my biggest going out in glory moment to scream at the customer. And instead, I learned, no, it's not worth it.
I want to know if you ever had legitimately any calling question regarding a product, like, or at, because when you worked at Skacel or when you ever worked, anywhere, did you ever have like a calling question where someone is like, I got these knitting needles and they don't fit in my dog's ears at all?
So
I'm making stuff up.
Not that exactly. So in particular, when I worked at Skacel, they sold, they still do sell, these double pointed needle protectors. They look like plastic gummy bears kind of, but like big, and you stick the needles on either end to hold them when the project's doing stuff. And they came in a pack of 4, and they do like kind of look like giant gummy bears, like I said. So at one point we get a customer call.
I'm sorry. I just need a moment. I need a moment to just like imagine jamming the end of a knitting needle up the bum of a gummy bear is pretty epic.
It is, especially when you're literally trying to do it. And here's how. So we get a call from a customer who's wondering why these are made out of cornstarch. She is mad about it. And I was like, I don't think these are made out of cornstarch. I'm pretty sure it's plastic, not cornstarch. And she said, well, I'm looking at the package right here, and it says 100% cornstarch. And I was like, what is happening here? So I'm, because I'm on the phone, I can't see what she's talking about. And suddenly I realize what we have been sending to people as thank you gifts when they place orders was packets of mini gummy bears, like the teeny weeny ones, not even an inch tall. And so she's sitting there thinking, oh, these are the new ones from Addie, trying to stick her double pointed needles in these tiny gummy bears. And I said, ma'am, is this a Harborough pack of bears that you're looking at by any chance? Yes. Okay, that is the treat that we include. I would not, if you've sold those to customers for like $12, you should probably ask that they bring them back, because that is not appropriate. And they're gonna melt. So yeah, bad news. And we had a good laugh.
Okay, good. I'm glad she laughed.
Maybe we could have come out with a different size and didn't tell people. So yeah.
So she was using actual gummy bears.
Yes, she had
to
placed
try to
the gummy bears up on the actual product wall to sell to people, thinking they were these double pointed needle holders. Yeah, so that was a fun one for me.
Also, interesting choice to send to people, since, oh my God, that's funny.
But, they were made in Germany. We thought we were being clever, live and learn. So from you, you're always so nice to share like original stories from people. They come to you for a reading and it's a great interaction. But I want to know if you've had any like good updates from people, like, oh, maybe during the interaction it did or didn't go a certain way. And then afterwards they're like, oh, even more, or I didn't realize it at a time, but now I know this. If they share things like that with you or not, I always wonder.
Oh yeah, I once had a lady at a party. She was actually the woman who hired me for this party, and I read her palm, and I was like kind of being flippant with her because we were really friendly with each other, and she was way cool. And she was like kind of complaining about her husband, and I was like, you're being a B word with your husband. You need to
Ooh.
stop being such a B word with your husband. And actually, it was kind of deep. It got a little deep for a second,
Yeah.
but I was like, no, seriously, I think your attitude is like, she was like, I was kind of like giving her a little kick in the
Ooh.
butt.
Yeah.
She like, what, eyes widened.
She's not ready for this tea.
3 months later, she called me and she's like, you saved my marriage.
Oh my God, I got chills.
I was
Oh.
like, what? I saved your marriage? She's like, yeah, remember that 15-minute palm reading? She was like, no one has ever had the guts to just tell me that. And I realized I was being a total B word.
Mm.
And like, you actually laid it out in a way that I could understand that, like, I was being a pain and like, he's
Mm.
awesome. And
Hmm.
we came together and it's been awesome. And they're still married today. And she still
Oh.
tells me every time, she hires me all the time for stuff. She's
Yeah.
was a party planner for a long time. Now she does something else. But of course, then she hired me for everything.
Of course,
Um,
yes. Oh.
she's like, Jim saved our marriage. I did tell her,
Wow.
and I will tell everyone, I did not save her marriage.
There you go.
She saved her marriage because she
Yes.
was able to hear the message. I'm just glad I had the courage to be like, hey,
Yeah.
when you think about like yarn or all the jobs at the jobs you've had, all the
Mm.
jobs you've had, your most inspiring interaction.
I think probably one of my more inspiring action and it wasn't like inspiring necessarily, but like when I first started working at the yarn store, I would try to help everybody and be friendly and whatnot. Um, but there was a customer that came in at one point, and you could tell she had had maybe like a stroke or something at some point. She came in and was dropped off by her caretaker just to have like a day to be around people who shared her creative passion, and she couldn't remember how to knit exactly, even though she had knit for like 50 years or something like that. So I took the time, even though usually we didn't sit down to really help customers like that. But for her, I was like, this seems different. So I took time to just sit with her for a little bit and try to, help jog her memory, got her going with a really easy project. And you could tell she was frustrated when she knew it was there, but she couldn't get to it. And, I just try to be really nice about letting her know how to get back into it. And yeah, it really made, I think, a big difference for her, even though she was only there for maybe like half an hour,
Why
something like
was it
didn't even
inspiring?
um I just felt like this could be me at some point. So,
That's really
why wouldn't
sweet.
I don't know. I always again, I always get like really emotional with this kind of stuff, but I always just feel like people who have hardships, especially like that, like what's the difference between you and them, really? So,
Oh,
if I can help,
oh.
I'm going to.
And I made Katie cry. That's
And
so
it made me
sweet. I
cry.
love it.
So.
Oh my gosh. Now I want you to volunteer in occupational therapy to help people with knitting. Oh my God, that'd be
Oh, never even thought about
amazing.
that.
I volunteered in occupational therapy at a hospital when I was a
Oh.
kid
Oh yeah.
and
As
helped
a kid?
people. Yeah, I was like a candy striper when I was
Oh.
like 14 and helped people learn how to like open jars and reach things
Oh.
from. And there was a guy who had a stroke who was learning to, or who was paralyzed, who was learning to paint with a paintbrush in his mouth. He was a really
Wow.
talented
Oh.
painter. And
Sounds inspiring.
yeah, but like learning to knit and like the dexterity, getting that dexterity back and the
Hmm.
memory back. Oh my gosh, Katie, that's amazing.
Huh.
We could all be there and like showing that kindness for someone, you know, doing and recapturing something they love. That's
Mm.
so moving. That's so awesome.
I don't know. It just
Oh,
really rang true with me. So.
yeah. Oh my God, that's so sweet.
So.
My most inspiring interaction was a story that I've told. I feel like I've told it many times, but I'll tell it again.
Yes,
It's
please.
when so it was a number of years ago, and a woman and her like BFF, her buddy showed up, and they had booked a reading. They booked an hour and decided to split it between them. And it was her a girl and her like gay best friend, and they wanted to go out on the town. So they were like, we're going to start with a palm reading, fun palm reading, and then we're going to go out to the clubs and have a
Yeah.
fun party, Friday night.
Mm.
So they came over to the house and sat down, and I started with him. And oh my God, we had a great time, and it was an awesome reading. And we were totally bantering back and forth, and we're
Oh
like, oh
yeah.
my God, look at your, da, 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 da. We just had a great time. And I had cracked open a bottle of wine, and
Ooh.
we were like, totally had a great time, right? This was
Uh-huh.
many years ago when it was super fun and whatever.
Yep.
So that was fun. And half an hour was up, and we're ready to switch, right?
Woo.
So everyone got up, got a glass of water and like whatever. And then she traded places, and she sat down, and she was super excited. And I was excited. I'm like, okay, next person. And she sat down and gave me her hands. And I was like, oh my gosh. And I kind of, I don't have an issue speaking.
Yep.
It's kind of, I have the other problem of like not speaking, right?
Yeah, I get that.
Yeah.
I have that too.
And I just like was really distracted. And so what was happening was she sat down, I started looking at her hands, and while I was holding her hands, an image occurred over her left shoulder, and it was an image of a woman in white.
Mm.
And immediately, and this is, like I said, years ago, and what I mean by that is I was still, although I had been reading palms for a good 15 years at that point, I was still, I
Yeah.
still feel like there was moments of doubt. I still hadn't really like fully embraced all of my gifts, or they were still parts of me that were developing, as they are now even, right?
Absolutely.
And so I had never had an experience where someone had occurred like this.
Mm.
And so the little brain weevils started going. The little itty bitty shitty committee in my head started, yelling at me. And so inside my brain was these voices that were like, "Oh, right, Jim. If you're going to make something up like a dead person, how unoriginal it's going to be. This woman in white, of course, and it's going to be over her shoulder. That is the lamest thing. At least you could like see something specific, like, know her name or see something, whatever. You're no John Edward. Come on, stop playing around and like just read her palm. Stop being a drama queen and just like, do your thing and whatever, right?
Mm.
I'm like, okay, shake it off, right? And then the being reaches out from behind her shoulder and starts tapping me
Ooh.
on my
Right on the
forehead.
head.
And that's very distracting when you're trying to read. I don't know if you ever would consider, but that's very distracting
That
if you're
seems
trying
like
to
it
read
might be.
someone's. Yeah. If you hear this, if you're feeling, that on your forehead while you're trying to read someone's palm,
Yeah.
it is very distracting.
Yes. Tried to wipe it away like a gnat.
I'm like, ugh.
Yep.
So then I just was like, I heard, and then I was fortunate because my inner mentor somehow got through and said, when are you going to fully accept your gifts? Like, or have a little faith. It was like this message of like, do you really have faith in your gifts?
There you go. Wow.
So I let go of her palms and I said, which totally, by the way, if you're a palm reader, this freaks people out. When you're like,
good to know.
when you let go of their palms and you're like, okay, I have something I need to tell you. The person is like wide-eyed and like, what? Oh my God, am I going to die? Right. They're totally freaked out. So I said, I have to tell you what I'm seeing, which is kind of not your palm reading. And so she was like, oh my God, what is it? And I said, okay, so there's a woman. She feels like a mother, but it could be an aunt or a grandma or someone. But it's a maternal figure over your left shoulder, which is a personal life shoulder. And she has three big emotional like messages she's giving me. One is extraordinary love, like really huge, unconditional, like I love you more than anything. 2 is remorse, like really deep, abiding remorse, like she's really sorry. And 3 is protection, like she will destroy anyone who messes with you or tries to hurt
Mm.
you. Like those are really specific and
Hmm.
very strong messages. 3 really specific and strong messages from this maternal type figure. And my client says, I don't have a mom.
Oh.
I was raised by foster parents.
Oh.
And I said, well,
Enjoy your reading.
and it was only like 4 minutes, 5 minutes into her reading.
Oh God. Ah!
I know, exactly. And I was like, oh no. And then it got real awkward and we still had a lot of wine left. And I was like, well, you don't. And of course, I was way before the Karen reading, by the way. This is way, way back.
Okay.
And I was like, well, you don't have to pay for the reading. And she's like, oh no, I'll pay for the reading. And so only 5 minutes in, she paid for the reading and they left.
Oh. And then you
I
drank the rest of the
was,
bottle of wine.
I did
Reflected
in
on
one
what the hell
sitting.
happened.
Yes. And I actually was like, I need to stop reading poems
Oh.
because I just like did
Hmm.
something horrible. Like I just like,
Mm-hmm.
this is not like, I was really having misgivings.
Yeah.
So Friday was bad. Saturday was worse. Sunday was awful. Monday was pretty terrible.
Hmm.
Monday night, Friday night, Saturday night, Sunday night, Monday night. What number is that? 3.
That's a 3.
Monday night, an email comes through from my client.
Mm.
When I said I didn't have a mom, that wasn't exactly true.
Oh.
My mother was murdered by the Green River Killer when I
What?
was a child.
What?
He's a serial killer in Seattle. He killed, I don't know, many, 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 many women, and he targeted women who were on the street or who were
Oh.
at risk,
Yeah.
or
Mhm.
vulnerable populations. She said my mom made bad choices, but he took away her opportunity to change. And
Wow.
she was already in foster care at that time that he took her life. And she never knew her mom really.
Hmm.
The reading gave her this opportunity to know that her mom was there.
Yeah.
Now I'm getting misty-eyed.
Who could blame you?
And that was one of the most healing things she's ever experienced.
Hmm.
And she said it was worth every penny.
Wow. Wow. Well, how
So
validating is that?
the inspiring part of that is, one, you have gifts, use them.
Yep.
Trust. If you've done your work, right? And as much as I have done my work and continue to do my work, which is my responsibility to do my own meditation, my own spiritual work, my own physical work, to be as healthy and as well and as physically, mentally, and spiritually well as I can, and continue to do that. And to study and to be where I'm at and aware, it's my responsibility. It's a privilege to be in this place. And it's incumbent upon me to do my work. Thus, share my gifts fully.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So that voice is what that voice was telling me, is have faith in my gifts and share them fully. Put that lantern up on the table, not under a basket, is one of those parables, right?
Yep, absolutely.
And you never know, the lives you'll change. And to have, be willing and be courageous in the messages that you share, knowing that they come from that place of, those positive messages will come out.
Yes, I agree
And
fully.
messages like that help everyone. Like you helping that person who is recovering from a stroke helped you, helped them, helped the people witnessing. Everyone was better in that situation, right?
Yeah.
Everyone got to get a little bit of that joy and a little bit of that love and that compassion. Everyone shared in that day.
Oh, gosh. That's a great way of looking at it.
Right?
Yeah. Oh, wow. Well, there you go. It's like, I mean, in like a way less sense, like just in the trusting your gut kind of a thing. Like, when you feel like, oh, I'm going to reach out to so and so, and then they say, I was just thinking about you.
Right.
It's similar, but this is just
Yeah.
like amplified to being
Yes.
part of the work. Yeah, that's very.
Yeah. You have an inkling to write that postcard to that friend. Sit down, write 3 sentences of positive affirmation of like, I was thinking of you. Just remembering what a cool person you are and how much I adore you.
Yep.
Remembering that time we were in San Francisco together and you make me smile. Love, Jim.
Yep.
Put their address on it, put a stamp on it, and put it in the mail. It will make their day.
Absolutely.
Those 3 lines, and replace those lines with whatever is relevant to that person.
Yep.
Like you can do that. They'll get snail mail and freaking love it. Hey, John, I was just thinking of you, remembering that time when we were in, name the place.
Yep.
Doing, name the thing, and we laughed our butts off, or we something positive.
Yep.
Right? Yeah. And then love your name. Send that to someone. There's your template.
Absolutely. This is everyone's homework this week, right?
It will make someone's day.
Yes.
It'll be an inspiring interaction. It's like something you can just do, right?
I have been a proponent of handwriting cards for my whole life, so I completely agree with this 100%. Do it. Yep. You will not regret it. It takes no time. No time. I even have like stationary bundles that I have on hand for like every occasion. I will make them. It's a lot of fun.
For the crafters who are listening, right. I'm going to call you out.
Yes.
I know you because I have been secretly climbing into your craft rooms and into your like places. You have been purchasing stationery that you haven't used. And it's sitting there. And it's sitting there. Right?
Yes.
If you're feeling called out right now,
there's a reason.
You have a task to write a very short little letter.
Yes.
To people.
Take
Whoever pops into your mind. Yep.
That's the one. Yes. See,
go through
this is a great exercise in intuiting as well.
Go through your iPhone and whoever's address is in there, just jot them a note.
Boom. There you go.
Make it short. Oh. Okay.
Fun.
Do we have time for another couple of, or are we? Do we have
Let's
time
do
for
one
more?
more. Let's do one more. Okay. I want to do. So, since
something
we both
funny.
realized that we were crisis control. I have a really funny one about crisis control from working at the yarn store.
I want to hear it.
So, I've always been known as crisis control, actually, anywhere I've worked, but it started when I worked at, go figure, the local yarn store. This particular yarn store was doing really well. We started doing online orders, especially for like all these custom colors that they would have. And so I remember one day, I got a call from a customer and they were really mad. And so they're like, Katie, you have a call with a customer that is looking to talk to you. And I was like, okay, cool. And they were like, she's mad. So that's why I was called in. Yes. So I take the customer call in the back room and I say, oh, what's going on? She was mad that her order of this special color of yarn that we had was shipped to her twice. That was our bad. Stuff happens. What are you going to do? She was not actually charged twice for it. She was just sent twice as much yarn as she needed. So I was like, oh, hey, so sorry for the problem. No worries. We can have you send it back. And she was like, I won't send it back. This is your fault. And I can't believe that you guys are so unprofessional that you would let this happen. And I was like, oh my gosh, you're right. It is terrible. And especially since it's one of our most popular yarns. True. I was like, I'm going to make sure that we send you a call tag so that you can send this right back. You don't even have to leave your house. They'll pick it up. And honestly, I could probably resell that yarn in like 5 minutes once I let people know we're going to have it back in stock, especially the amount that we sent you for like a blanket or a sweater. And she went, wait, what? And I said, yeah, it's like our most popular yarn in our special colorway, so it won't be a problem. I'm so sorry that we accidentally sent you twice. I'm thank you for calling and letting us know. And she went, wait a minute, what could I do with it? I could do what? And I said, well, you can make this or that. Well, if you had to, you can make a matching one or this and that. And she went, actually, you know what? I'm going to buy this too. So I ended up selling her twice as much yarn as she needed when she called to complain that we sent her twice as much yarn as she needed. That's just a change in perspective for you, folks.
Mm-hmm.
There you go. There you go.
Leave it to Katie to be able to sell an angry customer something they didn't want. I think there's some.
She just didn't realize it.
That's what all salespeople say. They wanted it. She just didn't realize. Is this the sales training they give you?
No.
Is this?
No, how dare you?
All the people who say no, they want it. They just don't realize they didn't want it.
I mean, did you see how great the first half of the yarn was? I have no problem selling this, which was true. I would have.
You bought one. You definitely want two.
Listen, I know you started with 8, but 16 is better.
Really?
It was a lot of yarn, yes.
Dang.
It was a lot of yarn. Yeah. So great. So she definitely had enough to do whatever she wanted. And
she also could have not called and just been like,
yes,
score.
Exactly. Yep. Yes. Strange, right? But also wonderful. So people have an opportunity to complain. They probably will.
Yeah, they will. I think what's fun though is like when I read other palm readers' hands is super fun. That I really love. I think there's a lot of fun in that because especially when I vibe with them, right? Yeah. When it's someone that I really am just like, okay, you're a palm reader, I'm a palm reader. Here's how I look at it.
Yeah.
Right.
Ooh,
and when in the past, if I've been insecure, like, oh my God, they know more than me, that has never really worked. And so now when I read another palm reader, I'm like, ooh, I want to find out how you read palms. Here's how I look at it. Yeah. And because there is no one way, there is no the right way or the wrong way. There is just like, this is how I look at these things, and here's how you look at these things. And it's really fun to see, like, how are they peeking into the insights? How are they intuiting into the unseen in their way, in their perspective, and how am I doing it? And that is a really delightful and joyful and fun sort of exploration and how different readers can access that information. And so that is really a fun way to do it. And it's in such contrast to the way that I've used to look at it, which is like one of us has the answer and one of us doesn't. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I think that's a really interesting sort of difference. And so now I always I love getting palm readings because I love to like learn, like, how do you look at this and how do you look at that, and be collaborative and curious and appreciative and amazed by the perspectives, and to learn and to look at them. This is the truth. Every palm reader that's out there knows more than me. They know something. I don't know if they know more than me. They do. They know something different than me. Yeah. Everything they know is different than something I know, which in that definition is something more or different than me. And I love that. I think that's so cool.
And guess what? You could stay up to date on all things James Devine by signing up for his newsletter, which you can find at thedivinehand.com. Or you can follow his Instagram at divinehandjim. Hey.
That's true. Divine Hand Jim, that's me. And Katie at Light from Lantern, or on her website, lightfromlantern.com. And if you love this episode and want to hear more stories, follow us wherever you get your podcasts. You can like us, you can comment, you can send us an email, or tag us on social media, knitaspell.com or wherever you find us. Thanks for
Absolutely.
listening.
And we'll see you next week. Thanks as always, Jim.
Thank you, Katie.
Bye-bye.
Ciao.
This episode is a wrap. If you enjoyed what you heard, go ahead and follow us on your favorite podcast streaming app. And don't forget, you can see full video episodes of Knit a Spell on Light from Lantern's YouTube channel.